What's up, cinephiles? For this episode, we are going to review Pixar's latest animated feature, Soul, directed by Docter. Now streaming on Disney Plus for those who have Disney Plus in their countries, but here in the Philippines, it's now showing in select PH cinemas. Now, before we begin, if you are new to our channel, consider leaving a like and subscribing to us for weekly reviews of movies, TV shows, and video games. Now, Kevin, tell us, what is this movie all about?
Soul tells the story of Gardner, voiced by Jamie Foxx. He's a passionate jazz musician whose soul gets detached from his body after some accident, and he finds himself in this world called the Great Before, a place where all of the soul's personalities are determined before they are given birth. There he meets Soul 22, voiced by Tina Fey. From there, both of these characters will learn from each other. So Phil, this is another great Pixar movie that I'm really looking forward to discuss. So fire away with your thoughts.
First off, let's talk about Docter. This is a guy who wrote and directed some of the greatest Pixar films, namely Monsters, Inc., Up, and Inside Out. He also wrote for the first two Toy Stories and even Wall-E. Safe to assume that this guy knows how to make animated Pixar classics. And Soul, in my opinion, is the best Pixar film I've seen since Inside Out. The animation here is incredible. There are some scenes here that, even though the characters are cartoonish in their character designs as most Pixar characters are, the backdrop, the background of everything is so photorealistic. It's just incredible to see how far animation has come. And Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey are also on the top of their game here in terms of their voice acting. I love their comedic delivery of their lines, and that's another thing. Pixar is well known for their humor, and the humor in this film is very, very sharp. There's even an inside joke here for sports fans like me about the New York Knicks, and I was laughing out loud when they delivered that joke. Pixar is really good at delivering jokes that is aimed at adults, even though that it's a kids movie, and Soul does it also so well. It's really hard to talk about the main message of this movie without spoiling things. If I'm gonna have to be vague, it's about this character who just loves to play music, who just loves jazz. It's not necessarily that he wants fame and fortune. It's not that. He's just really passionate about music. Along the way, as the plot progresses, he's going to realize that there are also other things to live for. And something that I want to say to those who still haven't watched this movie is just avoid the trailers, just avoid every marketing material for this movie, because this movie will take you places. Most of the things that happened in this movie were unexpected for me. I expected things to go one way and then it went the other way. So this movie is just a delight to watch for me, Kevin. What about you?
We have the same opinion. Though I have seen the trailer twice before watching the movie, this movie has taken so much twists and turns, as you've said, and so much surprises, but at the same time not losing its core focus on the theme and the message. We get two settings here. We have the Great Before and the Great Beyond, all those ethereal concepts, fantastic ideas that Pixar just beautifully conceives. And then we have the New York here, which, contrasting the two, the other one is so serene, the other one is so also captivating in a way that it captures the busyness of the New York, and then everything is just aesthetically pleasing to your eye. And also, I guess it also helped that the musical score, that's why I'm really glad to see this on the cinema, because for me, the musical score really played an integral component of the movie, the astral world where they make those ethereal sounds. Then it blends beautifully with the jazz music of Baptiste, along with that voice acting. We have Jamie Foxx. He usually plays this upbeat characters, but in here he has to be the one who's more subdued. And then for Tina Fey here, she's the one who's delivering more of the vocal calisthenics. I really laughed out when she said that she can be any voice that she wants, but she settled for this middle-aged woman because this is the most annoying voice that she can get. So I think that was fun, you know. And you know, that musical scoring, that voice acting, and that beautifully rendered animation. This is a well-realized Pixar concept, yet again delivered by Docter. It's funny because back then Pixar used to tackle themes about toys being alive. Then it went more existential with the themes of death with Coco, and then having attuned with your emotions with Inside Out. Then in here, I would say Soul is about the purpose of life and more so what happens before you were born, because there's a really cool school of psychology that was posed here, what you call the nature versus nurture when it comes to the personalities. Like, where does those personality come from? Is it something that you're innate, or is it something that is caused by the upbringing of your parents? So in here, we learned from the great before. It's like an academy. It's like a corporate setting where every creature there is very parental and super nice. And you know, when you get there, you're going to have a set of personality traits, and you have this predetermined passion that you're supposed to find on Earth. These are a lot of heady concepts that a child might get confused. But one thing that Pixar has really excelled is delivering those complex ideas and presenting them in such a cute way that kids will understand. The dialogue is expository, but it never feels tedious. So I have to really commend them for that. And I just have to go back with the animation. I love all those celestial beings being painted like Picasso-like paintings. There's those 2D line animations. I think they were really great, and I love that most of them are named Jerry. But you know, this movie doesn't really have a villain per se. Maybe the closest one is Terry. But you know, this is a soul-searching movie, up and down roller coaster ride. Initially, I thought that the ending was a bit of a cop out, but you know, considering that you have undergone this whole existential journey, it's a great send-off, especially now that, you know, 2020, every one of us had a down year. We needed this.
First off, I agree. There's really no clear-cut villains in this Pixar movie. The closest one is Terry, but that's my favorite character. The Great Before is a great setting because it shows that before some of these souls go into Earth is they have a predetermined personality type, and it makes for some incredible jokes. There's a joke here where they were commenting that they really should stop sending self-absorbed personalities on Earth, which is such a great commentary with today's world, in today's social media age. Now, going into some of my issues, probably is the ending. I agree, it maybe was sort of a cop-out. The thing is, Pete Docter's approach here in this movie is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Because even though the plot is amazing, it's emotional, it will tug at your heartstrings, it's going to get an emotional response for you, is overall, it really didn't introduce anything new or anything fresh, because this is a formulaic Pixar film. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because all of it works. This is definitely a top tier Pixar film, but I was expecting something fresh. The recent Pixar films, even though they are good, but none of them are really pushed forward into evolving Pixar narratives. So I was expecting a little bit more changes in the Pixar formula, but Pete Docter is just so great at helming these characters. It's still an emotional and amazing watch. The ending message of this movie for me just really got me, because as someone who is trying to pursue something that I am passionate about, that I think is something that is my spark in living, I am admittedly guilty in sometimes forgetting to appreciate the small things, and that is the ultimate message of this movie for me, is appreciating the small things in life. It's really the small things in life that makes life worth living, and that brought a tear to my eye. There's a scene here when there's that realization of that message that just got me really, really emotional. How about you,
Yeah,
Kevin?
same for me. I am, as I've said, I am teary-eyed on that scene that you're talking about. But you know, what's great is we have a lot of Pixar films that talk about kids can do anything, they can succeed anything. But I think this is the first Pixar film that says, nope, I'm gonna reject that well-intentioned lie and say that what happens in reality is that sometimes people, they don't achieve their dreams. Sometimes they die before achieving their dreams.
Yeah.
And that is what Soul is talking about. And I was just touched because it ultimately landed on a note where even though you haven't achieved that dream that you're looking forward, it doesn't mean that you haven't lived your life to the fullest, because life is in the small things, as you've said, those strolls that you take, those laughter that you get while bonding with your friends and your loved ones, those little things that we often take for granted. People tend to conflate passion with purpose, but you know, as you've learned, those two things are not necessarily the same thing, and sometimes when you get so absorbed with your passion, you become detached from that reality. And I'm really liking that take, because there's a segment in this movie, another form of astral world, where it's trippy, it's psychedelic, and I guess that was a cool take on what Pixar is trying to say. I was just impressed how this movie was able to bring out these abstract concepts and put them into, you know, something tangible. And all those messages, no matter how cliche they are, it is really something that you needed to be reminded of. I will definitely get it if children will not appreciate this as much as the other Pixar films, because this is a bit too deep. You know, I'm not expecting them to resonate much on this, because watching Soul, I think this will speak much to the heart of the viewers who have already gained life experience. It's like it's encapsulating the whole life experience and serving it up to the children. Like, what better way, right? I'm excited for kids who have seen this movie right now. In the next year, when they're going to revisit this movie, they will learn something new. And that's what's the beauty of this movie, because I can learn something from this movie and then you can learn something entirely different. I think this is one of the magic of Pixar.
This is one of the top tier Pixar films for me. This is just amazing. The animation is great. The voice acting is great. Again, my only issue is it felt a bit familiar for me, because in a way, even though the message is different, the approach is practically the same in Inside Out. But it has a different message, and that message is just very, very resonant. It brought a tear to my eye. I absolutely love this. I'm so excited for the next Pixar films to be directed by Docter. I am going to give this movie a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, this one is really life affirming, and you know, it just so radiates with love, joy, inspiration, wisdom. This movie is something you can talk over with your friends, and at the same time, it's such an introspective experience that I couldn't recommend enough to people to go see this. So I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this movie so much.
And that's it for our review of Pixar Soul. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.
Also, let us know what you think in the comment sections down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, see you on the next one.
Bye bye, guys.